So the thing I like about doing projects with you is that like it's almost like this weird open space to just be like, which is cool because normally I'm just kind of like standoffish. I don't really. It's not that I don't like working with people. I always have this weird feeling of like, I don't know if this person knows what they're doing. And but every time like you're out, you're like, we've shot films and stuff before. Like you seem to be on it. So I knew you rapped. I knew you've had comedians on, like even before you had me on, like you had comedians and people. And then you knew I did jokes that have
singing,
like, singing in them.
There was jokes that you would do where you would sing for just a little bit. I was like, damn, he's got like a voice and like soul, and like that would be amazing to incorporate that in music. And I mean, definitely, I feel like I've really aimed with each of our collaborations to highlight that. Yeah, that like. Creamy voice or
yeah.
You got a creamy voice
because you'll do because you'll layer some shit. You'll be like, you'll do it like this and do it like this. And music, like singing and music is like been around in my family, but it wasn't my focus. Like it was something like my mother did and things like that. So it was cool. I think whenever you approached me about being like, yeah, do you want to be on, I can't remember the first album.
So it was, I had you on CGM, and I don't even feel like it was like an official thing. I think it was just kind of like you and I talked about hanging out and maybe listening to some beats, kind of like a free form thing. And I had just moved in to that new apartment with that roommate, that girl, Mandy. And I still had like boxes and shit in my room. And you just came in there. I had like just set my computer up and it was just like a mess all around. We were just sitting there and I was playing beats. And then you were just kind of like humming things. And you hummed something that to me sounded like, "If I did you." That wasn't what you said, but that's what I heard. And I just started laughing so hard because it was this like, I think it was the exact beat we ended up using, but it was that sort of like smooth R&B feel. And then it was like, "I want to fight a Jew with you." It's like, what an activity. And it was right around the time of that like Charlottesville thing. So it was kind of like, this is something in the satirical sphere to mess with. And it was just we came up with this song that like, in terms of sonically, it sounds very pleasant. Yeah. But the actual content of the lyrics is extremely rough.
Wild. Right. I've always thought about that. I was like, if I ever make anything, like this song will cancel me.
Right, exactly. Oh, yeah. And that is one of many things that I'm like, this is one of the four horsemen of my apocalypse.
Yes. Yeah. There are like every time we meet, I do something like so offensive that will like one day get me. But it's that fun. That's the thing about it is you create this like space where for me musically, one, I like you actually do production. So like I've always been around people who like, oh, let's write or like, you know, get these poems or whatever the thing is going. But then there was no place to like facilitate it and house it. And so when you like reached out or we started hanging out, you were like, I already have the setup to do it. I know how to press it. I know how to, you know, mix it and everything. So just go in and try some stuff out. And then, we actually got that, like, they became these, like, studio sessions, which was cool. And then, it was just, like, anytime, I always had it in the back of my head, it's like, anytime he makes an album or something, I'm like, yo, let me get, like, one track. Because that's just, like, a fun thing. With you, we've probably talked about it, but, like, what was it that got you into rapping? Like that crazy.
It was a sketch. So I was doing sketch before I even started doing stand-up. Like when I was 11, I started making funny videos with my friends. Yeah. And then it became more sketch comedy as I went like into middle school and high school. It was a lot of just like sketches with the brothers, you know, and I would play characters. And I just came up with this rap character, Camboy Smith. And the whole point of it was for me to be a white guy doing a black accent and rapping poorly, like being bad at rapping. And it was more supposed to be this like jokes on this guy kind of thing. Like this guy just sucks. And like the first song that I did in this, it was like a documentary spotlight of this guy. So it's like interview with him and there's bitches on his side and then it's going in between him and the booth recording, and he's working on his new track, Dim Binary Numbers, and he's just rapping in 10000001, like he's rapping like that. And then I just kept making music videos as this character, and I did this over summer when I was like 16. So then when I came into like my junior year of high school, and like there was people, my arc was like, I came in freshman year and I tried to keep my videos and YouTube stuff hidden because I got in big trouble for it in middle school. And then
damn, you were posting that early? That's wild.
Yeah, middle school I was making like South Park-esque cartoons and I got in big trouble when the teachers found those out. Yeah. I talked about it on the podcast I did with Wills because he asked me like an origin story, and I felt like the trouble I got in middle school very much, I think, colors my attraction to playing with the line and like offending people or causing trouble. But yeah, so then my sophomore year of high school, I remember the broadcasting teacher caught word that I make videos, and I was not in broadcasting, but like someone said like, hey, Miss Stevenson would be interested in you doing like a man on the street segment if you can keep it appropriate. But a bunch of other people in that class have seen your videos and they've been telling her he can't do it. And I was like, I could do it. And I like talked to her. She's like, all right, next semester take my class and you'll do it. So then when I started making these man on the street things, then more people in the school were aware I made videos and then started looking at my YouTube stuff. And so I had like some little audience. So when I came back my junior year, after I made that sketch, everyone in the hallway was calling me Camboy Smith. So it was just one of these things. It was like a sketch I did that seemed to get a reaction out of people, and people seemed to latch onto this character. And I just kept making songs. I was very, very musically ungifted when I was doing this.
And that's interesting to me because I don't know, maybe that, I guess that shows to like what you can do if you're dedicated to something. Because I've only watched you like when I first got on to like you rapping, I was like, yeah, he's like being offensive and like making it funny, but like there's bars in there. Like there's actually like there's something in there.
Yeah.
Like he understands like the flow of it and how it's supposed to go. He can flow, he can get in these pockets, and I'm like, he's actually rapping. It's like it's out there shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I've also seen you like just get better each album, and like those last 3 or so albums, I'm like, damn, this thing spin bars right now. Like he's actually like doing it. So the fact that you're saying you weren't gifted in it, like I always thought you just
don't feel like I am. I really still like feel like I'm musically retarded. Like I feel like it's a thing. Well, I feel like there's my approach to getting better at it has been. I've talked about these brain hemispheres all the time, but I felt like a very left hemisphere, like hard practicing and trying to like grasp kind of thing. And then I think a lot of my understanding of the way things work and deepening my relationship with creativity itself is getting me to understand, no, to really get good at this, there's a huge element of letting go. And like music is one of the most profoundly connected to this divine harmony that's like at the source of everything. In fact, you know the music is good when you let go enough to where you're just being like a transmuter of this rhythm. You know what I mean? And I definitely.
Well, we talked about this like before, like even like yesterday about like letting these like energies or thoughts come through and like bring them out. So like, do you think that was just you letting that happen with Camboy, and then it keeps like developing kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've always been much more focused on the lyrics and the performance.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would even say the lyrics more than the performance. Like my whole thing came from, I enjoyed writing these bars and these, like I never enjoyed freestyling really.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I did actually like about working with you is I would get good stuff from you if I just put you in the booth and just ran it through and just said, hey, just sing and make shit up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I would just cut things that you did first time around together. Like in our most recent one that came out, the end of Love Songs, Love You Right.
Love You Right, yeah.
Yeah, which was one we tried to make during CGM, and then I redug it back up. And
yeah, the blueberry pie. And then I remember just in your old Pontiac, something happened about pie, and we just kept like blueberry pie, banana cream pie,
American Pie,
American
Good
Sniper.
Movie,
American Sniper.
Yeah. And so yeah, and the lines in there where one of my favorite parts in the song is when you're like, "What's your email? What's your password? I need the details. How's that ass work?" Yeah, like I just
make that ass work.
Give me that homework. I need that classwork. Make that ass twerk. Come on, baby, shake them cheeks. like the large, like, you know, we might have added a little bit. You improvised something where it was most of that, and then I was like, yes, do that again, and then we'll add this little bit to like finish it. So yeah, there is this nice hybrid between my heavy focus and proclivity to write and plan and like construct and produce something, but then you have this like free form openness to like whatever idea Cameron has, I'm into it and I want to support it and add to it, rather than like pitch something that is completely different. You know what I mean? And it's not that I don't like that ever. It's just that I feel that I'm very much an ideas person. And I feel that I have a hard time collaborating with another person who's like very grounded in the idea that they come to the thing with, and then we're having to figure out how to put the ideas together. That's really hard because there has to be a level of understanding of each other on both ends in order to properly mesh those things together, where it seems more like you don't come in with any sort of agenda. You come in with like this pure openness. And you figure out and you adapt to whatever is laid out there in terms of the ideas I'm bringing to the table or the lack of ideas. Like, because there's been plenty of times we've gone in where it's like, I have no ideas. Let's play some beats and see what we have. And then you'll do something, again, just kind of mouthing or humming something. And I'd be like, yes, this is it. And then
you'll scroll through and you'll be like, oh, I actually had something that I wrote that I'm like, oh, let me figure out how this can go in there, or like this idea. And I like that because to say like, going back to what I was talking about earlier about how I like art, I love creating, but music was always just like this one thing that was harder for me to grasp. Like I can go do live performances. Doing film is fine. Like it's fun. Like that's almost like live performance because I did like theater and stuff. Music was like, it always was something I felt like I was decent at, but it was so personal and I always like didn't know how to facilitate it. So like you're already like, boom, just come hang out. And I'm like, I'm in a safe space. Let me just say some wild shit. Let me just hum some stuff that's been on my brain and see what happens. And then you'll just take it and like go with it. And like just rappers I've followed over the years, like, you know, Jay-Z and Wayne, they just like, oh yeah, I'll just go in the booth and like figure stuff out. I don't really write it necessarily, or like watching like behind the scenes stuff and being like, oh, these songs come from these like hangouts in these studio sessions. And then next thing you know, you got 3 songs, which is like what we end up doing. And it just works. Like it's fun. It's like a creative outlet and it goes. But damn, so like Camboy just sort of happened on accident.
It was a thing that it just like I did it as a joke, and I even kept doing it as a joke. And I had the first album I like accidentally produced from just making more sketch or like funny songs or whatever, was called Straight Outta Hell. And I put that out in like 2012, like towards the end of high school. And then I made a second album, Rachie, which was named after this. My high school English teacher had a crush on Rachel.
I remember that you told me.
And she, like her and I are on the cover of the album. And those albums are old, and I like have taken them down because they reflect, I guess, a musical capability that I'm really like, it'd be best if no one saw this first iteration of. And then I even feel the same a little bit about the 2 albums after that, White Devil and CGM. There's good stuff in there, but the unfortunate thing was like when people would search Camboy Smith, the first thing would come up would be like, I love Nikki Heaton from White Devil. And I'm like, that's not how I want you to be introduced to my music here in 2023. That's a horrible reflection of like the depth and like where it's at now. And so, there's been the kind of this shaving off, and now like the oldest one that's out there on Spotify is Camronavirus from 2020. But there was this arc of like, and there's been this entire arc from the beginning to now where it's completely this shallow character, and it's like purely an exercise of the shadow through like, okay, a lot of like hip hop can be like super violent or like misogynistic, and I'm trying to like do that like extra hard, so hard that it's funny. It's ridiculous, and also while also being bad at rapping. And there's just been this slow thing of like bringing that shallow character and then bringing more of my genuine self into it. So then you have this like half and half thing. And I feel like the arc from Camrona to this most recent one with Love Songs has been like, okay, now the shadow's actually starting to dissolve and become a smaller part of it, where like the genuine or like fully amalgamated thing where I'm actually like speaking from the heart and about like what's real for me, it's coming out more and more. And I'm now finding the whole process of lyric writing and song making to really only be fulfilling and worth pursuing as long as I'm tapped into this deepening of truth. Like you not using it to communicate a truth that I already know, but going in with a question of like, here's the low resolution thing I need to explore the truth of. And then through writing and making the song and performing it and getting it made and analyzing it, I then just discover a new depth of truth and self. And like, to me, that's become the most important thing.
Yeah. And that's part of it with like, obviously like the root of it being like a form of like poetry writing or anything like that, which was like why, like even I can come up with stuff, but like I have like rhyme scheme and stuff in my head. Cause like I would write poetry and things like I write jokes, I write this, and I'd put down these things and I did them in my youth. Cause I liked hip hop. I always liked, whatever, listening to stuff, R&B and making songs and whatnot. But it's that like that process of getting it out of your head and then coming up with an idea that like means something to you that feels more like poetry, and then all you do is just like, we're making a song, so let's just make that song. But you're still getting the root value of what like a poem would do for you. That's what I feel like. That's what I feel like it would do. Yeah.
And when I went to college, I studied film and creative writing, and I focused on poetry. And that was something that occurred to me because, when I first went into creative writing, I had to choose between fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. And I chose poetry because to me, I felt very well versed in fiction and story construction. I felt like I just had my voice in that. Like I just knew what I wanted, and I didn't have a whole lot to learn from pursuing that. And I was like, poetry, I do this lyric writing and I don't feel very poetic. I don't feel very nuanced or detail or word focused. I feel like I need to develop that part of myself. And sure enough, it really wasn't until I don't feel well, I need attention that I really started taking the way I would operate in those poetry classes to write poems, that genuine side of like stream of consciousness or emotional extracting or sharing or just truth diving. That was I Don't Feel Well, I Need Attention is the album where it starts with this really raw, simplistic sort of poetic lyric writing. And then it starts to flower up, and then the harder rap bars are then reintroduced. But as the album progresses, the lyrics get more complex and more bar heavy. By the time you get to the end. Now it totally, my process no longer feels like it's this strenuous grasping for the bars and punchlines. It now feels very nicely balanced where it's got this core of poetic truth pursuit, and then the bars and the punchlines and the funny things are more like decorative, little flair, charm, like flair, ornaments on the tree and whatnot.
Okay. I will actually, because obviously like hip hop's 50 years old, which is insane to think about. Like I'm like, it did hit me. I'm like, damn, we really in our like rock and roll Hall of Fame era of hip hop where it's just like 50 Cent's doing like revival tours and shit. Which is wild.
My brother went to that last week. Like,
did he? Yeah. I was like, I've been seeing a bunch of those, just like those like hip hop 50 events that have been going on, and it's been dope. Are there any like, because now like the world around hip hop is so big. Like, are there any moments you want to see play out with the Camboy? Like, would you do like a Watch the Thrones, like you accompanying somebody else on like a doubles album or like a What a Time to Be Alive type situation? Like this did you ever have a thought for that, or did you ever have like, I'd love to just make a joint album with this person or band? Because I know you've also gone outside with music too.
Yes, so I do like the idea of a Watch the Thrones. I don't know who I would do that with, or like, because I feel like it would need to be someone. Because like Jay-Z and Kanye were like had this nice
Camboy's polar opposite. I want to find Camboy's evil or good alter ego. I don't know. Like, what if Camboy's been good the whole time? Right. You find somebody who's evil, but they say the nicest shit for no reason. I don't know. That would be
right. Well,
that'd be wild.
I've thought about recently, especially with the introduction of those like AI voice things. I thought about, what if I just did like a collab album with me and Drake? It's Camboy and Drake.
Camboy and Drake.
I mean, I thought about that, but you said the band thing, and I have been thinking about this a while because a lot of the songs on "I Don't Feel Well, I Need Attention" and a lot of the songs on "Love Songs for Absolutely No One" are less hip hop rap, and they're more like band music they could be retranslated very nicely in a setting where I work with a band or a group of.
It has like a more like orchestral or just like fundamental music instead of just like your digital beats and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I feel like I'd like to amalgamate some tracks from I Don't Feel Well and some tracks from Love Songs into like, an hour-long show of live band music. I would love to do that and like get a nice taping of it. That would be so fun.
Yeah, because I've seen your live shows have like they have their own little energy about it, which is interesting because it's
very different from the recorded music.
It's one thing to, obviously like be doing this and you go in your recording, space and you pump these things out, but then like how you translate, I think it was I had that moment where I was like, yo, this dude is all right when you did the live show and you did Cool Butt. And I was just like, oh, this dude, like, no, he had like the neon suit on. I was like, yo, this dude knows how to like.
And I'll get into it too.
Yeah.
I'll start screaming.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I was like, yo, you actually put on like a whole rap show. Like, I was like, this is really cool. And I think getting to see that in like a refined like composer band type thing, that'd be dope.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of dope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I've jammed with bands before, like Dave DeMuro and Steve Marcinowski, and any combination of people just hanging out at Baboom Lasan. And there's been times I've hopped up on stage with bands very briefly, and they played something and I spit some of my lyrics. Like these things have happened before, and there's something that feels much more like how I was talking about. There's this letting go and really getting into the music that feels more naturally the case, or naturally able to get into the groove when you have other living people playing instruments around you, rather than you're replaying an already made beat from a speaker.
Yeah.
There's something that just allows you to get more deeper and embodied.
That jam, like seeing like those like jazz funk bands just like jam or like have and then you're in a pocket and then you start riffing and then you just like, oh shit, we made something and I didn't even know. Or even it's not even with the point of making something, we presented something to like whoever's here and it like it did something to them. Like it gave you some feel. Yeah.
What is your personal favorite song of the? There's 3 that are out, and then I guess there's 2 that we've kind of started on that aren't out. I guess you can.
Of the ones we to be honest, and I think I still have like a rough draft that you like sent me in like an email. And I'll play it every so often.
Is it Mike and Mary?
Mike and Mary.
Mike and Mary. Everyone loves Mike and Mary.
Mike and Mary is my shit, man. That was a fun, and that was obviously I'll do some like rapping with you, like the way we'll sit, we'll play the beats, and then we'll do these like you write some stuff. We'll just be sitting like this, chair to chair, writing some stuff, and I'll usually go for that like melodic tone. And I've done some rapping stuff, but this was like the first time I got to like really get in like some pockets, and I was like, and you were like directing in this, and we're like, try this, and I hit that, and I was like, okay, like I like this process, and then the beat hit, and I was like, oh, this shit kind of hard, like I ain't know I had bars like this, like this is wild, like I was like, yeah.
Dude, Mike and Mary, when that hits, it's over.
Yeah.
I do the Mike.
I do the Mary.
Why we do the Mike? Why we do the Mary?
Yeah. Do the Mike and Mary with the dysentery.
I do the Mike and Mary with the urinary, dysentery, fucking Sherry Berry in the elevator missionary. Mama said it's necessary that I join the military, but I'd rather do Mike and Mary in the kitchen with an open carry. Yes.
That shit is hard.
Yeah.
It's like, yo.
Yeah, and that's so fun that we can do that, because a lot of times too in collaborations it's like I can sit in the room with someone and we can bounce ideas and make notes or whatever, but eventually we're going to have to go our separate ways, and I'm going to need to be by myself while I write some lyrics.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's moments where you and I actually manage to have an out loud bouncing off of of ideas for lyrics, or we can just sit in the room together for like 30 minutes quietly and then come back and like, all right, I got some stuff and you got some stuff too. And that's a level of, I don't know, it's a level of comfort, trust, and patience to be able to do that with someone. Because I've talked about how back in high school when I was making those videos, I was very comfortable shooting with my friends during the day, and then at the end of the night, they're staying the night. They're playing video games now in the same room as me. Their attention is occupied on that. Now I'm next to them on the computer editing.
Yeah.
And so it's like now in this adult life, a lot of this editing or strenuous writing or these things, they've become more private for me. And so it's rare. It's hard to find a functional way that feels good and right and comfortable and extracts the creativity out of people with two adults in the room having to do
like it's almost like that sharing of that energy of like, even though we're doing something separate, we're still in that same space where if the idea comes, we don't have, it's not a, shit, I got to get them back over here. Mm-hmm. They're right around the corner and what about this? And let's try this out. Let's like mix this up. I think, you talking about like starting out doing this stuff with your friends, that was kind of my start into like creative production stuff, like even getting into because it's like my progression was more, it was like, yeah, I ended up obviously like doing a focus in comedy, stand up, but that wasn't like the start of it. I was like, naturally funny or whatever. I was big into like fun ways of self-deprecation, and I would always play these like bumbling idiot characters for friends who like did their own little personal films. I was always the actor. Like I was like, yeah, I'll get in front of a camera. Why not? Right. And then I had friends who like did like film studies in high school and then ended up going to college for film. And I would just always be that like, yeah, if you need an actor, I got you. And then being able to like hang out in those creative spaces helped me just like, oh, let's try this. And we got the shots that we wanted and we got to do it more. And then at the same time, I was just like doing like theater stuff. And like, so I was able to use those both together. And then the concept of doing monologues became big in theater, and I would just write my own. And then it turns out I was like, oh, I'm writing jokes. I didn't intend for them to always be funny, but they somehow would, even how I delivered them. Like, I think I did like a monologue about, they wanted like a mournful monologue, like a sad one. And I did this thing. I came up with this idea of doing like a eulogy, being asked to do a eulogy for like my estranged father. And it was supposed to be this like mournful, like, like I never met this guy. I don't know who this person is. But how I delivered it, it kept being like dark humor as opposed to just being dark. And then that's one of those moments I was like, oh shit, I think I'm onto something here. But being able to start doing that in like a creative space with people, if I was just like contained by myself, it probably wouldn't have gotten done. And I've noticed more as I've gotten older that like I do want that feeling. I need that like people in the room, jam sesh, studio session, filming a thing. I'll take that energy and then I'll have enough to go to my own personal space and still do it. And then when I'm in a space where I'm by myself and I don't feel very creative, I'm just like, oh, I'm not around creative people. That's the problem. I am a creative person.
You need to be inspired.
But I need that. Yeah, I need that inspiration. I need that like that creative juice to be like, yo, what you got? All right, cool. and then we get a Mike and Mary situation. Right. Because I don't even know these motherfuckers.
I barely do. And I've seen them many times before. I've shown my mom the song.
You gave me one quote.
She's like, go show them the song. And I'm like, I don't think they'll like it.
One quote about these people. They seem like sweet people.
They are. Yeah.
And I might never meet them. Right. But just know you got a hit in your honor. You have a,
exactly.